Alright, quick build video for you. I've been playing at EK for a while now, and I think I found a pretty good solution to all the trouble we've been having with heavy armor, large resistance armors, that sort of thing. So just getting into it, I've got 2 pieces of Bloodspawn. Everything's impenetrable. Most of my armor is tri-stack glyphed, just, you know, for the extra stats and that sort of thing. I've got the Curious of the Night Mother, which is this is a heavy armor set, basically 5 heavy, 1 medium, 1 light. Of course, everything's impenetrable, and this gives you weapon critical, weapon damage, and when you deal critical damage, it applies major fracture to the enemy, reducing their physical resistance by 50 to 80 for 6 seconds. This really helps in taking away the resistance that they have. My second set is the Spriggan set, and I've got 1 stamina recovery and 2 weapon damage. Now you could play with a full weapon damage set, but it's going to be kind of painful to try to keep your stamina up and that sort of thing, so I like a little bit of stamina recovery. It's not great, but you know, when it does go up there. 1575 with a tri-stat potion. Spriggan's gives you an added 3370 physical penetration. You add that on top of what your Night Mother set gives you, and you've got a pretty good spell penetration. I also use the Spriggan's Greatsword, and it is in the sharpened trait, which also gives you a little bit more penetration as well. Now, as far as the Mundo Stone, I chose the Warrior. I tried using the Lover for extra penetration, but I found this to be a little bit more viable. I was getting a little bit better damage and healing on top of that. Using a sharpened sword in combination with the drain health poisons, I found this to be the best combination for a couple of reasons. One, you get a lot of healing from these, and when they proc, they do quite a bit of damage, so I felt like this was a worthwhile situation. And it's also good for giving you a lot of health back, and that can really start to matter. On my back bar, I've got a Spriggan's Mace, a Spriggan's Shield. Now, one other idea I had, I don't have this set yet, but using the Mace of Potentates and the Shield of Potentates would give me 2 items, reducing my damage taken for players by 5%. Now, if I add that on top of the Temporal Guard, I would have roughly 13% reduction in damage. So basically, I could go on my back bar and shield block, do whatever I had to do. But I haven't done that yet. It's one of those things you can do it. I do get a little bit better penetration and that sort of thing with this, but if I did have the potency set on the back bar, I would have that additional protection, and that might be a pretty good thing to have. So I just thought I'd show that. I guess I'll start on my skills. Usually when I buff up, I'll hit Molten Armaments. This will increase my weapon and spell damage for 36 seconds, which is really good to have, and your own damage with fully charged heavy attacks is also increased by 50% while active. I use Cauterize. This heals you for quite a bit, and all by itself it's not all that much or anything, but if you pair it off with some of the other heals like Resolving Vigor, this added on top of this really helps a lot. Reverberating Bash, this does a nice little bit of damage, and it also physically stuns them. And what I do like about this is it will often stun an enemy before they realize that they're stunned or anything like that. Just something to keep in mind. And I've got Venomous Claw, and this actually deals quite a bit of damage. Fully buffed up. Venomous Claw is hitting for right around 18.6k, and this damage happens over 14 seconds. This is really good to have on an enemy while you're fighting them, because this, especially sorcerers and that sort of thing, this is ticking away at them, eating up their health and their shields and that sort of thing. Of course, Resolving Vigor, and I've got Temporal Guard on the back bar, just so that when I'm on my back bar, I have the ability to take a little bit less damage. And what this actually amounts to is maybe the same thing as the resistance you get here, your physical and spell resistance. I think your physical and spell resistance amount to about 9%. Temporal Guard is about 8%, so it gives you quite a bit in terms of the damage that you are able to reduce on yourself. Going to the front bar, of course, I have Executioner. This is a really good skill. Whenever enemies get down in health, start to use this, it really comes into play. And it doesn't take a lot of stamina either. Critical Rush. This is a really good gap closer, getting close to an enemy without having to really sprint towards them. The attack is always a critical strike, which will also proc this set. Of course, Dizzying Swing, I've got that. I've got Volatile Armor. This is my my skill that gives me extra physical and spell penetration. And I've got Rally, and I'll show you how Rally works in a little bit. Fully buffed up. Okay, you can see my heals at the bottom, 59.26, 91.20, 10.185, and so on. And I believe on this it goes all the way up to 1440. So I'll show you that once again. 64.59, 75.23, 91.20, 10,000, 13.3, 14.44, and at that point, that's what it's going to heal you for. So if you wait the full time frame, you'll have what you need as far as your heals go. This is actually a little bit better than the other one, which the other morph allows you to be unsnared and that sort of thing. But since it's gotten reduced down to 4 seconds, I'm not so sure that it's worth it. And to be honest with you, I've been able to roll dodge out of most situations without having to go to that. I've got Take Flight, fully buffed up. My Take Flight is at 20.4k. Anakin's It can also be a gap closer, and as well it can get a whole group of enemies, knocking them back, doing a lot of damage. This is a pretty good skill for when you're in a group and that sort of thing. So yeah, I think I've covered most of it. Now getting into the champion points, since I've found a few neat little tricks that I've used. Starting out, I've got Warlord. I've got the cost of break fee down to 21%. I've got Summon a Sprinter. Now this is a heavy armor build, but this does allow me to run around at a pretty good clip and keep up the speed and not have to not at a point to where I'm losing a lot of stamina. I've got one in a Siphoner. This is for people to see and to purge, even if they don't need it. We've got 64 in a Mooncap, 37 into Arcanus. Now for DK, magic's pretty important. You need to have that for Cauterize and for some of your other magic skills. I've got 44 into Tumbling. This keeps the tumbling at the cost at a pretty lower area. When you're fighting people, you'll do a lot of tumbling and that sort of thing, so you'll want this there. I've got 27 into Blessed, and this gives me a 7% additional healing. I've got 72 into Master at Arms, and this is really important to have for your direct damage attacks. And I've got some here into Physical Weapons Expert. Now I've got 12% here, and on the surface it really doesn't look like all that much, but it really has increased my my light attack damage quite a bit. And if you're doing your rotations right, you'll do light attacks in between your skills, and this really does feel a lot stronger than what the numbers might suggest. This is another option if you're up against Sorks and that sort of thing. You could put points here. I haven't, but it's there if you need it. And I've got 26 in a Thaumaturge, which gives me 11% additional damage with my damage over times. Now I'll explain why this is important. If you come to this area, you'll want this damage running in the background when you're fighting somebody. This is really important because this is the damage that happens while you're not doing direct damage. So I've got some there. I've got some into Precise Strikes. This build is a heavy armor build. There's not a lot of critical going on, but there is some, and I feel like this scales pretty well with that. I've got 42 into Piercing. This gives me about 3,500 piercing. I haven't put a lot here because I do have the Spriggan's armor and I do have the Night Mothers, and those stacked up on top of the sharpened weapon, I get quite a bit of penetration. I've got 64 in a Mighty. This will help all your skills. Okay, on my defense bar, I've got 22% into Ironclad, 40% into Resistance, 43 into Hardy, 43 into Elemental Defender. I've got 16% into Thick Skin. This is important. Your damage over time really will eat you up pretty well, so you'll want to have something in there to counter that. And here I have 9% into Quick Recovery, which adds to my healing. This on top of this gives me an additional 16% healing, which if you go into your draconic power, your healing received is 12%, though so that's 16 on top of 12. You're looking at a 28% additional healing. So these things amount to quite a bit. And in heavy armor, you also have another 8% there. So altogether, you can add all those figures up, and it amounts to quite a bit. I think right around the 37% mark or something like that. One other thing, I'm a Nord, which gives me additional physical and spell resistance by, we'll just call that 4K. Increases your stamina by 1500. When you take damage, you gain 5 ultimate. This can occur once every 10 seconds. This is something that can be felt. And this really complements this armor set here. So you do get quite a bit of ultimate back all the time, which you can then use. And basically, when you use that, it ties into this passive here, Battle Roar. When you cast an ultimate ability, you restore 50 health, 46 magic, and 46 stamina. This helps quite a bit because your stamina recovery really isn't all that high. So you get a lot of resources back with that. So I guess that's about it. As far as what the potions you might find yourself using, you'll use Tri-Stat potions quite a bit as they give you magic and back, and to keep up some of your skills like Cauterize and Volatile Armor and that sort of thing. You're probably going to want this. I've got the Essence of Movability. This helps you to go fast, and it gives you stamina, and you'll be able to be immune to knockback and disabling effects for a little while. I've got this Essence of Movability. This gives you weapon critical, and it gives you stamina as well. This is good. This is probably the best for the max damage that you can do. Although I find myself not usually using this. Usually I'll use this one or this one. If there's a Nightblade, I'll shoot over here. And this is the Essence of Immovability. You become immune to knockback disabling effects. Increase your stealth detection by 20 meters for 15 seconds. So this is good to have. Of course, I've got the Essence of Invisibility. This is for when you want to get away from a situation. You got a Zerg chasing you or a boss or whatever. You can go ahead and do that and use that and escape. Of course, this is the Sigil of Imperial Retreat. I've used this in Imperial City. Your Essence of Weapon Power. This is a pretty good potion. It gives you critical, which is nice to have. But I usually don't find myself using this one. I'll either use this one or this one or this one. As far as the food that I use this Arteum takeaway broth. This gives you health recovery, max stamina, and stamina recovery by 338 for 2 hours. These are pretty expensive at the guild stores though. So if you want to, you can use something like this. Yeah, the stats are just a little bit less, but these are cheap, and you can get them and use them all day long. It doesn't make a lot of difference from this, so this is just something to keep in mind if you feel like you're in a situation where you might want to need all those extra stats, that's great. But for most of the time, this is a pretty good drink to use, so that's what I've done. So anyway, I guess that's about it. You know, it's basically just a setup that gives you a lot of penetration, and I haven't really talked too much about these potions. This is a drain health potion. I believe you use scrib jelly, butterfly wing, and mountain flower to create this, and I found this to be very useful. Things that I could do to the build, I could go with a little bit more in terms of protection. I could get these rings in protection or something like that, but I haven't really done that yet. And to be honest, I don't think there's anything wrong with my physical and spell resistance. Coming here, I've got 28k and 25k. We'll just call it that. My resistances are pretty up high. They could be higher if, and you can get them there, but at this point, I think I have pretty much enough. So anyway, yeah, I guess that's the build. That's what I've been using. It's worked for me so far. I've been able to 1vx quite a few people with it. You're not this forever immovable tank or anything like that, but it does give you a lot in terms of survivability and that sort of thing. You'll find yourself using heavy attacks a lot, which is one of the reasons I've kept this skill. So heavy attacks do tend to do a lot of damage. This plus the 12% in the champion points. You'll want to keep your stamina up in fights and that sort of thing, so you'll want to get your light and heavy attacks in there, as it'll keep up your stamina. But anyway, yeah, I guess that's about it. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I guess I'll see you guys out there. Take care.